Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for the second webinar in the OEG training series. Today's session, I want to talk through bridging the wind energy workforce gap. It's an increasingly important topic as the industry continues to grow and evolve. Delighted to have you with us. Look forward to sharing insights, challenges, practical solutions that can help change the future workforce of the wind energy sector. Again, thanks for your time for joining us. I realise it is a Friday afternoon, and yeah, most people are looking to head home for the weekend, but hopefully you will find the webinar both informative and engaging. So, as always, a little bit of who we are. And so, OEG Training has recently integrated into the larger OEG group. Last year they were a training provider based in Liverpool prior to that, predominantly on the delivery of GWOs. OEG took the strategic move to engage and have its own training provider to grow a workforce, which we're going to discuss later on, which we know that there is a solution that we do need to find more people to come into the workforce for renewable energy. OG itself as a group, if you don't know, is very much heavy on the operational side within the renewable sector, both here in the UK, Europe, and sort of globally. It is very quickly becoming one of the major players within renewable energies, and all its different departments reach into everything from subsea to topside to kind of a marine as well. A little bit about myself. I've been within training for most of my working life, predominantly for the last 15 years within the wind energy sector. I've had various multiple jobs, from being a marine stroke sea survival instructor, and kind of worked through and progressed through that training environment to eventually I'm now the training and development manager is my title at the moment. So give you a little bit of a background to why there's a workforce demand. As we can see, within the UK, we've reached about 30.1 gigawatts of installed power by 2024. 14.2 of that is offshore. That percentage will only grow as the industry grows. Very much this will be focused on offshore. That's where we see the growth going over the next sort of 10 years. But that's not to detract or take anything away from onshore wind as well. They have equally the same issues with a workforce development side there. UK technician demand, it is growing. The wind technician is the fastest growing skill group, I guess, within sort of the renewable energy. You only have to look at people's adverts looking for kind of employment and job roles within there. Crown estate expansion, that's only increasing. So we have had round 4. That's leasing circa about 8.0 gigawatts of capacity, which will require about an 8,500 plus new technicians by 2028. Round 5 is just in the process now, and that's looking to further expand it out by another 4.5 gigawatts. So we can see as an industry, we're healthy, we're growing, but what we need to do is make sure that we have the workforce and the capacity to meet those demands. Within the growth at the moment, with employment, there's about 27,000 jobs, direct jobs within wind. That needs to grow by about 32%, as you can see on the slide, up to about 36 by 2030 to meet demands at the moment, and what we know is already in the pipeline. That doesn't take into anything else that may come online within that time. A little bit more information. Again, what you will find, there's some of these figures I'm quoting from different references, so they won't always match, but what they do is they give an overall picture of the demand, and that there's a very big demand for employment within wind, rather than it being something we don't have to worry about. So UK still skilled technicians, there are a lot of technicians needed just to meet the demand of what we need from the future growth within industry. That's not just on technicians. We've also got, for every technician there, you've got a multiple of roles, that are connected to that, whether that's offshore, on the beach, onshore there as well, that helps integrate this into the whole industry. So again, we're not just looking at technicians. We've got multiple roles that need to be fulfilled within there as well. Apprenticeships are starting to come into the industry. There's some very good work being done by some of the larger clients within industry, but the target isn't quite being met on there. So we do need to increase that apprenticeship target like within there. And conversely to that, you've also got the graduate training expansion. So we have multiple universities within the UK that deliver renewable courses, like undergraduate courses and whatnot, but we're not developing the pathways from people leaving university to how they get into industry. It's not an easy move for them. So we have a lot of growth. We just need to make sure that we can meet that potential, by having the right people with the right skills and the right competencies in place at the time. So it kind of splits down into a few different sections, if you like, the UK crisis. So we do have a deficit. There's a technician deficit at the moment. I think it's probably no news to anybody, but certainly from an OEG point, it is something that we feel on a daily basis. It is very difficult to recruit new personnel into the industry. So at the moment, there's about 8,900 certified technicians within the industry in the UK. That needs to upskill to about 21 and a half things. Again, different different numbers there, but they're all painting the same picture, which there's a demand that we're not recruiting fast enough for. Training provider bottleneck, potentially one of the problems. We have 53 GWO certified sites and centres. So what that figure includes is like one provider over multiple sites. So there's not a huge amount of providers out there within the UK. It's a very concentration as well, so that they're concentrated in specific areas, and that may not be conducive to where people need to train or are willing to train on there. Expansion. It's a huge issue. It's a very positive, it's a very good issue that there is a lot more expansion within the wind renewable side. Things through kind of round fours being released there. It's, I guess, imperative on ourselves within the training environment to make sure that we can meet that demand. And if we don't, we do have a financial cost. So average looking is about a 15 to 20 billion pound black hole in any project delays due to technician shortages. So it's something I think as an industry we need to take seriously, not only as an industry, but within the training sector of that industry, and just be a bit more aware of how we can combat that, how we can help to increase that and take the demand down. So just to kind of give you a little bit of background information, there's one here for onshore and offshore. So the darker green is very much UK based and the lighter green within Europe. But we can see from 2025 to 2035, there is an increasing demand and we're never catching up. We don't have enough people within the industry to catch up. Similar progress with offshore as well. Both curves aren't meeting, they're not aligning at the moment. I think everybody will be aware within industry, we're very good at rotating the current workforce and rotating them around within companies, within jobs. What that's not doing is growing the workforce. We're just using the same expertise and knowledge and just moving it around as we do. That can only get us so far. At some point, which I think is coming down the road very quickly, we're going to find that we will need a lot more people coming into the industry itself. So some of the root causes that I've got on here, as you can see from the stats there, this is something that we've done through our training centre, but we're finding about 68% of employers are reporting difficulty finding qualified candidates. But on the reverse of that, we're finding 70% of course attendees struggle to find a job placement. We're not combining, we're not matching up, we're not strategically thinking about this as a whole. We're all siloed into our separate departments, whether that's industry, training, government agencies, and there really needs to be a combined focus to get that back on track again. We also have about an 18 to 24 month curriculum lag. So from industry requiring something, in general, it takes about 18 to 24 months to provide that training and those trained personnel within there. So there's very much an education industry disconnect. We're all busy doing our own thing, which is great, but what we need to do is come a little bit more together and understand and really as a joint task force, look to develop this workforce. Insufficient training skill. So we do have 50 odd training centres within the UK. I think it's about 306 within Europe. I guess what we have here is there are training centres. What they don't have is an extensive portfolio. We do tend to find most training centres are delivering the same materials, the same certifications, which is entry level, sort of basic courses, and we're forgetting about that progression into the job profile, what's required for each job, like within there. Non-standardized training, so very much coming from industry, because there isn't a job role and a job pathway being created, they tend to be created, you know, within industry. Now that will mean various things to different people. Different companies will have different types of training, different standards that they see fit to meet as within their training requirements. So there is a variation in people's experience and knowledge and expertise within these job roles as well. And something we need to get better at is understanding those and clearly defining those parameters. Curriculum gap, as we said, it does take time to train things initially to provide that training course and how that looks, whether that's practical theory, AI, as we'll go into later, things, and then get enough people suitably qualified through it and onto the job and into the workforce itself. There's a perception gap, which I can't remember how many conversations I have on a weekly basis to wind energy. That's one of the new emerging markets. We all know it's been around 20, 25 years plus things, but the majority of people within the UK certainly see it as a brand new industry. They also don't understand that it's an industry. I think we've been very good at keeping ourselves quiet. And I think what we need to do is make sure that we're maybe singing and shouting about what we do, pretty much on a daily basis, and understanding that there are wind technicians, but there's also another 1,000 job roles within this industry that need to be fulfilled. Certainly, when we're looking at the operations, the working conditions, we need to be aware of, and how we can look to minimize the impact of those working conditions. So, it isn't your normal 9 to 5 job in some respects. In some respects, it is, but for other roles, it may be a 2 and 2 like week rotation on there. It may be working offshore, it may be working onshore, but within a remote area, things not close to where your home is. So you're not home every night, like within there. And again, something that it still perplexes me, and it's something I would really like to invite everybody to kind of give me some information on. But we're very good at looking at a particular sector within the workforce. So what I mean by that is that we are very male dominated, and what we're doing there is from a strategic point, we've reduced the intake of people into the workforce by about 50% by not making sure that we're appealing to the mass market. We're including males, females, diversity within the workforce, and it is something that we need to work and strive to get better at. So a combination of all those things are creating this kind of workforce gap. Things, if we don't do something about it, we're going to find that all it's going to do is go ever wider, and we're going to hit some financial constraints because of it. I've just mapped out some of the skill shortages I know that are happening currently. This by no means is a full list. There are plenty of other roles that probably I've omitted off of here. But certainly, if we look at the 4 stages on here within development, there's a severe lack of environmental permitting specialists within manufacturing, assembly technicians, quality engineers. What I would say is within that market, they are not wind specific. These are job roles that can be done and cross-skilled from other industries. Construction riggers, welders, again, they're not specific to wind. We then get onto more specific job roles from blade technicians, marine construction crews, and marine coordinators. But again, there's a certain amount of cross-population from other industries within there. Within the operations and management, we have a huge shortage of HV techs, both APs and SAPs. Again, blade techs, lead technicians, project managers, engineers, planners, logistics. So what we're looking at is not just, if you like, the asset, the turbine, it's everything else that goes with that turbine. There's a shortage throughout the whole sector. One of the solutions we've been looking at, and it's something that OEG are very keen to be looking at as well, is apprenticeships. So currently we're looking about 3,200 apprenticeships at the moment, ideally looking to get that up to about 15,000. So about 369% growth on there. So most companies have an apprenticeship levy. It can be tapped into. I think there's a fear of using it. Things are a misunderstanding or not understanding clearly what an apprenticeship is. But it's certainly something we can tap into as an industry and just increase and develop that. So that's something within OEG we're very much kind of concentrating on and looking at to develop our own apprenticeship schemes. We also have union and sector partnerships. So there is a very good system through the unions. So GMB, ECA, CTIB, they're all, which I've listed there, the four of them, they're all producing kind of wind or renewable energy type courses or apprenticeships there as well. So there's an untapped market there. And again, we don't seem very good at kind of joining up the dots. We have the workforce here, they're getting trained in some degree, but how do we then pass them into industry? And I think that's, again, where we need to look at these pathways. Major UK employers, I must admit, I've named a few there, but there is some very good work being done by some of the employers, along with Orsted, which we're now assisting with their apprenticeships scheme and took on 20 of their apprenticeships this month. But there are other ones equally, like Equinor, Scottish Power, SSE, BP. They are all looking to develop their own apprentice schemes, or apologies, they have developed them. They are now producing apprentices off the back of it. Other options to look at to bring workforces and cross-industry training or reskilling. So we've got the North Sea, oil and gas. It's not going to go away, and I hope it doesn't, but there will be people there that can be utilised within sort of the wind energy sector as well. Now, that may mean crossing over directly or being able to move between both freely. So there's around about 28,000 skilled workers within oil and gas with about 14 plus years expertise. A lot of what they do is very relevant for wind. It wouldn't take much to redevelop them. And I know there's some good transition funding courses and information going through there, but I think we just need to gear that up a little bit more. We've also got the armed forces within the UK. This is an existing skilled workforce. Things they already have the necessary skills. They just need to then rejig that, I guess, to the wind energy. So, they're coming, depending on which area of the armed forces are coming from, they're coming with electrical, mechanical, logistics, project management, leadership skills, telecoms. I think more importantly is the soft skills. What they do on a daily basis is very conducive to what we do within the wind industry as well. And these are soft skills, as I said, like leadership, being able to work in small groups, remote groups, very solution driven things, which I think is a key asset to anybody within the wind sector. There are transition programs. So you have CTP and LCAS, which are funding pathways for people leaving the armed forces and looking to reskill into industry within civilian life. Again, we do quite a lot of work with both of these companies or programs, but there's a lot more that could be done and a lot more could be developed within the whole of the training providers within the UK itself. We also have our maritime sector, a huge sector. There's 85,000 plus UK maritime workers available. We're not just talking about ships, but portside, docks, all of those there. They all, again, have transferable skills. Now, we are seeing maritime looking to reduce the numbers of people due to automation within ships and whatnot. So there is a workforce there that is out there looking to be developed into another area. And again, there needs to be a little bit more of a reach out, a little bit of a clearer pathway for these people to understand and even know about. And kind of the last solution that we're looking at as well is kind of your graduation and training providers. So again, we talked about accelerating graduate partnerships. I've listed, I think, 4 or 5 universities that are delivering a renewables linked undergraduate course. There are more than these, but what it's to do is to highlight that we do have graduates coming out with this knowledge. Now, a lot of them will be coming into industry, but we're not making that awareness there of who's the players, who's out there, how do we develop these clear pathways. Somebody leaves university, it's a very easy transition to come into the wind industry. If not, we're going to lose them to another industry. Yeah. I keep using this word, collaboration, but it is vital to what we need to do within training. We need to collaborate more between industry and training providers. That's just to meet the demand of what is required within industry. But we're, as I said at the start, we're very good at siloing and just thinking of it as separate pieces. What we need to do is now think of it as a jigsaw that needs to be fitted together to then provide the solution. Things that we can do and things that are happening, things but public engagement such as outreach programs, looking at schools, colleges, universities. So creating that knowledge and information of the industry early, so it becomes a norm. It's not something of a surprise that there are wind turbines on their backyard. Training providers, as I said, there's 53 within the UK, 306 within Europe. The demand for additional training is not being provided by the current providers. What I mean by that is we're all, if you like, training from the same pot. We're all looking at the same courses and delivering the same courses, but no one's delivering developing courses, or we're not delivering them quick enough for industry. And so very much as a collaboration between training providers. Things I know that's probably not a popular view, but it's certainly something that we need to look at and become better at, and not seeing ourselves as potential enemies, but more potential allies to increase the workforce within the industry, and also getting better with our information between, if you like, industry and training. So looking at collaborating things, and it may be a case of like, yeah, we expand out, but do you need to expand out, physically from your site, or can you create partnerships from external industries that can develop and take that training in for you? So I guess in summary, these are 5 key points. We need that development industry collaboration. So industry, training providers and government need to create the clear pathways into the key job roles, look at potential funding to support the workforce development as well. So something we're keen at OEG to do, and it's something, as I said earlier, we are doing, is we're creating these pathways to find your way into industry, into specific job roles and what's required to get you there. Upskilling and multi-role capability, apologies. So again, not looking at somebody that is maybe just a blade technician, then that could be their primary role, but as we all know, blade techs, aren't utilized 100%. So is there something else they could do? Could they be doing inspections, something else? So that they can be multi-skilled, multi-rolled within industry itself. Education and internal partnerships. So looking to build those strategic relationships with schools, colleges and universities, really important. We get that early engagement. We start attracting talent into the industry. Things, industry entry routes. So looking at accelerating your apprenticeships, your graduate programs, looking to attract that new talent, which will be the future of wind within here. And then we're looking at the training providers as well, being able to grow their portfolio of courses and training that they can deliver. Then say, to give a little bit of perspective of where we're looking at, this is something we're also looking to deliver. Where OEG, we were looking to have about 80 new courses specific for industry within the next 12 to 18 months. And I guess that's where we've been quite fortunate as a company that we now are part of a training provider, but we're also now part of that larger operations group, and we can understand where those kind of pressurizations are and help relieve them. So again, that was a very kind of whirlwind view of where we are from a workforce development. I'd like to take this opportunity again to thank you for listening to the webinar and invite you to ask any questions.
We did have a question come in the Q&A box, Scott. I'll read it out just now.
Sure.
So someone has asked, how realistic is the transition of oil and gas and maritime workers into wind? And they followed up and said, what are the main challenges in converting those skills?
Right, great question. I think my side is really is highly realistic. I think what we tend to forget is it's already underway. There's a lot of good work already being done to transition this through, but there's a huge percentage of skills overlap between all the sectors there as well. Things like mechanical, electrical, safety standards, very safety conscious industries, particularly within oil and gas. I think the challenge isn't the skills, it's finding those transitional pathways, getting certification alignment. Is there is a certification they already have that could be aligned with what was required and avoid that dual certification? And it's, I guess, putting in places these kind of bridging programs, taking the skills they have and repackaging them for the industry.
Fab, thank you. We've got another question that's just come in. It says, with the current number of GWO training centres in the UK, how do we practically scale training capacity to meet the technician demand?
Yeah, another good question there. I guess what we're looking at is there is certainly going to have to be a physical expansion, of the facilities like within there, but also being a bit smarter on how we deliver. Then say, and again, I think we're all aware of these things, but the use of blended learning, the use of AI, the use of online learning, whatever your thoughts and ideas are on that, I think these are valuable tools that can be used within industry. I think, and it might be controversial, but I think we need to increase our certified providers, particularly within kind of emerging regions. But that needs to be with a very much of a view of extending the portfolios out, not all solely concentrating on 10 or 15 different courses or similar courses that we're all delivering.
I've had another one come in.
Sure.
Someone has asked about what new courses we are aiming to roll out at our Liverpool training centre. And does that include STCW training?
I think short answer there is yes, and quite a lot. So we're very aware of what the market needs. Obviously, being part of that larger organisation, we have a direct pipeline to what's required. So certainly we will be looking at STCW, very much looking into kind of like the technical specific courses. So being able to develop people through from statutory inspection, blade repair, and else and the other courses that are required within there. Also looking, within industry to what we add. So, things that add value to our company, so we can train virtually in-house. So looking at our different sector lines like temporary power, our subsea sections there as well as maritime and marine coordination. So a very broad spectrum of courses that will be coming online shortly.
Great, thank you for answering that one, Scott. We don't have any more questions that have come through, so I will mute myself again.
No problem. No problem. And thank you very much for that. I guess for me, again, it's just to thank everybody for joining us here on a Friday afternoon. And I think if there's one key message I'd like to try and get across to everybody, it's within the UK, we don't have a talent shortage. What we have is a systems and scalability challenge. I think that's the thing, that's the key point I'd like to try and deliver from this webinar. And again, thank you very much for joining and all have a great weekend.